No microphone. I have to figure out how to do the microphone. Because now you're on my phone. We're back. But you're on my phone. I need to sync my phone as the video, stream from my phone, I need to plug into my phone for my mic. Do you guys see the fire happening in my head? I have an idea. Can you trademark for help for an ass whipping? Wait, what? I have an idea, but it may not work. I have a lot of cables that might work. Hold on. I probably shouldn't even worry about this right now. I probably should just say forget it. It doesn't matter. But I need to figure it out at some point. See, what if, what if I go here to here? I hope I don't lose you guys. I think I still need to plug this in though, because it needs power. I hope this isn't where it's going to output it though, because I just want it to have power. Okay, so let's try this. There's only, oh no, there's two. There's only one of those. Oh wait, but I have two. I have two of those. It's the wrong one of those. You know, I'm gonna ask Lutfi. He sent me something super funny today of yoga, goat yoga. So, but because this is such better sound and it looks cooler. But, well, stinky cheese. Okay, can you guys hear me okay though? Or is it echoey? Tell me that while I'm looking at my cord situation. But Lutfi is a good idea. I'm gonna ask Lutfi. He would know what I need. Because, I mean, honestly, I can't upgrade the internet anymore here. Mo! Or maybe Mo knows. I can't upgrade my internet any faster because we're in a business complex. So they dictate like the type of internet. And even though it says we get 500 megabytes per hour or whatever, that's not what we're getting. My upload speed was 4. At home, it's like 50. And at home, I'm supposed to have double. But this is stinky. We're gonna have to figure it out because this is like, look at, we have stuff. And there's like a sign that I wanna do. But can you hear me okay? It's good, little echo, but not bad. Okay, what if I bring you closer? Let's get closer. You know, I should have brought my mic. My other little one that attaches to my here. Should have done that. And I thought, I don't need it. Everything will be fine. It's gonna be just fine. See, okay, I can't, the light is like right here, so I'm gonna have to look at this because I'm old. Man, I had screen stuff to show you guys on my laptop. But when I played back the other live stream, it was lame too. So, like the audio, it kept buffering. Okay. Let me go to the live chat on here because this is better. Oh, poor. I had a whole, like, everything was all, I had it all set up too. It's always something. Okay. Is it not even gonna let me see my own live? Hi. Here we are. Can you play Drunk on You by Luke Bryan? Corbin, that's a good song. So, those are big lashes. You know, when it's windy outside, sometimes I think I'm going to fly away. I got big ears, super hearing. I do not hear any echo. Oh, Larry, you're like a German Shepherd. They hear everything. Okay, now please on TV. No, Corbin, sorry, I can't. Okay, so today we are going to talk about protein because I did a poll on my post. I thought you were going to say bat. Oh, wait. See, now I'm looking up here again. Why am I doing that? It's good now. Okay. So protein and why it's not equal and why I wanted to talk about it. So I did a post. I asked a question about what was more protein. Is it 4 ounces of chicken? Is it 4 ounces of salmon? Or is it 4 ounces, or I think it was like 4 ounces of chicken and 4 ounces of beef. That's what it was. And a lot of people said chicken. And the real answer might surprise you. It's beef. So I thought it might be good to kind of go over protein and why it's not all equal so that, especially for beginners, when you're going out to eat, you can know exactly what to pick based off of your goals and how you want to have your physique look. So let's see. So most people, like I said, thought 4 ounces of chicken was more protein than 4 ounces of ground beef. Can you guys think not why, because you wouldn't know why God made them that way, but can you guesstimate how many grams of protein? Don't use Google, don't use anything like that. How many grams of protein is 4 ounces of chicken and is 4 ounces of beef? And I will wait. So in fact, let me pull it up here because I have a whole thing I was going to show you on my computer screen. Okay. I'll wait. $30, $25, $26. Okay, so someone looked it up. Larry. Chicken is 4 ounces is 26 grams. Okay, so beef, if you have, depending on the type, because, well, I mean cow, but some people consider like bison. They're not a cow, it's a different animal. And that actually is a lot leaner than a cow. But beef is 21, I believe. But what do you have more of that's gonna make you take in less of something else? Does that make sense? What do you have more of with beef than you do with chicken? Does anybody know? Does anybody know? Yay, Wilson, it's fat. So it has like 4 ounces has a whopping, I think it was 33 grams of fat, which for me Right now, my intake for my show is 50 grams of fat. So that would be 4 ounces, which I get 4 ounces of really lean sirloin, like a lean sirloin. So where there's not a lot of fat in it. So it also depends on, you know, what level of fat you get. You can get like 93.7, you can get 99 or 96.4, you can get 80-20, which is what you'll mostly get at like fast food. I was gonna see, I need to look here, but I feel rude not looking up fat. I was gonna say juice. Oh, it is. So Red says, what about all the studies that say to limit red beef? There's actually a lot of studies that show benefits to red meat. So I think you have to ask why you feel that would benefit you. There's some people that have a hard time breaking down protein. And so beef in particular is a little bit difficult. But from what I've seen with people, it is beneficial to have red meat. And we should go over all the studies that show that, because there's a lot of studies that show the benefits to eating red meat. Now, I don't think you should eat red meat for every single meal. But I do think at least one meal a day is, if you're doing if you're like me doing 6 meals, so 1 meal is a very small amount, right? Is actually very beneficial for you. But we should go over the studies of those. But so what I wanted to talk more so about today was like why it's not equal. So chicken versus protein, or versus steak versus salmon. What other kind of protein sources do you guys like? Some people like tofu. Some people like whey protein powder. Put in the chat what you guys like. Hi, Kitty. How are you? You have to force yourself to eat 2 meals. So that's super common. Does it matter age? I see a lot of older men on the carnivore diet. Probably Larry, because to reduce fat would be likely why. Most of Americans are obese, so going on more of a carnivore diet would be beneficial, just because you're reducing carbohydrate intake in general. To me, 2 meals is hard. Larry, you know, we could skip your sleep. Let's not focus on your sleep. We need to focus on food, because you're not going to sleep well if you don't have adequate food intake. Hello, Keith. Larry, but I would still give yourself carbs. Wait, no, mustard, no. I haven't ate today yet. Hi, Keith. Larry. Larry. You're like, no, why don't you guys eat? Oh, that's not good, Keith. I'm sorry. So we don't even need to talk about, because you could do all like the USA and no phone, and we're getting totally off topic, but I feel like we're supposed to right now. You could get all the blackout curtains you want and go to bed on time, but if you don't have adequate nutrition, you will not sleep, because you're not going to produce the hormones you need to sleep, to get like melatonin, vitamin D, zinc, all those things you need to sleep well and through the night. Think of a baby. Would you put a baby to bed without food? No, right? Because they wouldn't sleep through the night. One, they'd be hungry for sure, but like eventually starving babies just like stop crying. not that I have any starving kids. You should see them. They're all well fed and over their over the average size. But it's just what our bodies do. We just adapt. So you learn to not be hungry, which is why it's hard for you to eat 2 meals, because your body has learned to not be hungry. It's learning to survive like that. So I won't, Keith, I won't ask about him. It's cool. We won't talk about him. Okay, so we can start. This is perfect for you, Larry, because the first thing you can do is, this is the easiest thing, is to start with protein. So to know the differences, and that's what we're going to talk about. They're not all equal. We'll start at the basics. So when you go to hang on. So when you go to a store, a health food store, or a supplement store, you'll see things like this. You'll see protein bars, you'll see beef sticks, you'll see, there's a whole food protein bar. You'll see these in gas stations, right? Shiznit. Ah! Okay. This is level 1. There's a difference. I'll tell you in a minute. This is Formula 1. This is a whey protein, and the bottom one is a concentrate. So when you look on the back of a label and it says made from whey protein or a concentrate blend or things like that, we're gonna go over what those differences are, okay? Because they're not the same. They're not the same. This is another protein. It's a concentrate. This is a vegan protein. Then when you think of foods, drywall, that's terrible. But Keith, we're not going to talk about him. So when I cut out soda, my body loses hunger. What kind of soda? Do you drink like marijuana soda? Because soda makes me full because of the carbonation. But okay, so you have all these different proteins. Okay, I'll tell you what the other bottles are later. There's other bottles over here. When you go to a store, you're going to have salmon, you're going to have tilapia, you're going to have cod, ahi. Name some people that you guys eat. Name some, Keith. What proteins do you eat, Keith? Tell us. What proteins besides bugs? Beef, drumsticks. What else, chat? Come on, help me out here. Walk through the aisles with me. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm walking in. I've got the fruit section. What else is like, oh, people think nuts are protein, but they're not. They have protein in them. We'll talk about it in a minute, but they're not protein. People think peanut butter is protein. It's not protein. Chicken, shrimp, tuna, steak, fish. Gosh. Oh, tuna, salmon. Good. What else? Pork. Yes, pork chops. Yum. Peanut butter bread. No. Tofu. Ugh, yeah. Tofu. Some people think cheese is protein. I wish. What else? Lobster, that's a good one. Edamame, right? Some people consider that a protein. Yeah, Yep, edamame. What else? You guys got good ones. Keep going. Trying to go through. What else is like, I mean, I have my list. Lamb, that's good. Let's see. I'll look at my food list for my clients. That'll remind me. Because I only eat like my certain things. Chicken, tilapia, I have beef or sirloin, and then egg whites, eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. Now I'm down the other aisle. What else? Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, sometimes milk, I guess. Halibut, haddock, turkey, ground turkey, chicken tenderloin, pork tenderloin, bison. There's a lot, right? So, if 4 ounces of all of those isn't the same, how do you know or what you should eat or how much, right? And why are they different? Structurally, just as animals, they're different. They have different purposes in the world. I think one time Beetle asked, like, what was the purpose of a cow? And we looked it up. Let's ask. Hey Siri, what's the purpose of a cow?
Here's an answer from Britannica.
Cows are domesticated bovine farm animals raised for their meat. Well, duh, they're domesticated, but like, why were they made? We went over why they were made. Now I wish I didn't go into this. But they have different purposes, right? So they're structurally made differently. Their bodies are made of different things, just like we're made of different muscle fiber types and such than a raccoon, okay? So if you were to eat us, we would be a different amount of protein in 4 ounces than a bug, right? A way you can think about this is you can have a size 8 shoe, okay? You might be a size 8, but depending, or a size 10 or whatever, if it depends on where I'm at with my kids. I grew a half a size in my shoes with every kid. I was a size 8. I'm a size 10 now. Isn't that gnarly? Okay, so anyway. So, where was I? Okay. So 4 ounces is not 4 ounces of protein. Whoa, hi. Wah! Yep. AI learning your voice. Oh, I bet you she is. Well, she doesn't tell me my answers, though. I don't like that. I don't know what Nove uses, but he uses something that talks to him. I don't have anything that talks to me. She makes me go find her answers. She's like, well, I found something, but you're going to have to find it yourself. Like, I click on it, and it sends me to a bunch of different things. And I'm like, well, could you just tell me what you were looking at? Anyway. Okay, so protein. This live stream is going, like, so disorganized. I don't have a pic. I don't have my slides. Okay. So not each is created equally, and why would you want to know the differences? Well, if you're trying to lose weight, you would not want to maybe do a ton of meals with beef because of the other factors in it, like fat, right? But also, if you are on a low amount of food, you might want something that has a little more fat to it than something that's so lean. But on the other hand, for me, I sometimes prefer, instead of a fattier meat that's like juicier, I will prefer a leaner meat like tilapia so I can add a fat later, like peanut butter, to another meal. But anyway. The proteins, so the differences with like salmon and beef is going to be how much you're weighing out versus how much you need. And so for a client of mine, no matter their goal, I am going to do at minimum 1 gram of protein per lean pound of body mass. And that is a bare minimum. That is when someone can't get food in, and protein, it takes longer to digest. So someone's gonna feel fuller for longer. It's much more satisfying. So for a client that, like, let's say Larry, I would have to start Larry off at a much lower protein gram than I would want to, especially for Larry's height and being a man and his ability to put on muscle. I would actually probably say closer to, my end goal would be 1.6, 1.7, maybe even 2 grams, depending on your age, because age, Larry, it does matter. Depending on your age, 2 grams per lean pound of body mass. So not your total weight, but what your rough muscle amount is. So with age, if you are in the late 30s to 40s to 50s, I start increasing that gram amount, because it becomes harder and harder for our bodies to absorb protein. And so then you need more in order to absorb it. So if you are in your 40s and you're Larry's size, and let's say you were 200 pounds of lean body mass, and we were just starting out, and it was like you were, like, obviously not eating, I would go with 1 gram or 1.2 times 200. So we would start out at like 200 grams of protein, which is a lot. So, but we would break it up into 6 meals. So hopefully it's not so much at once for your body to digest. So 200 divided by 6. Everybody, what's our mathematics? Let's see. Sorry, teachers that said we would never have this. 33 grams per meal if you did 6 meals a day. So then what proteins do you choose if you have whole food and you are trying to build muscle, lose weight, whatever? So I was gonna drink this. Okay. Wait, let me see what you're saying first. Oh, Mark is here. Beef is high in fat. Yeah. Yes. I don't have an astrology channel. Oh, it's Astrology. Hey. Astro, what's shaking, bacon? Good to have you back. I love it. Okay. So, biggest thing, obviously, is get the protein in. Whatever you like. If you're a beginner, just get the protein in. Aim to get 4 to 6 meals. More, I find, is better for most people that have a hard time getting food in. But anywhere between 4 to 6 meals a day when you first wake up to when you go to bed, unless you have some sort of insulin issue, and then we would just adjust frequency. Amen. Hey, Astro. But the first thing I would do as a beginner is just pick a protein that you like. And if it means you're eating 5 meals of the same protein just to start getting the food in, that's what I would do. If you're struggling to get food in, then I would recommend, to get those grams of protein in, I would recommend a shake. So for a shake, when you go into a store, you have all these lovely options, right? Some are whey, some are concentrate, some are collagen, some are Some are vegan, okay? Obviously, if you're vegan, you're probably going to go the vegan route, but we'll talk about the vegan things later. But how do you know which one to choose? So, before I get into the collagen beef, it's not really beef, but before I get into the collagen beef, we're going to talk about the differences between the two main ones that you're going to find in a food. Like if you get protein waffles from Premier Protein or the Premier Protein drinks. If you get, obviously, a supplement or things that they add protein to, it's usually going to be a whey protein, a concentrate, or a blend. Okay? Why and what is the difference? Okay, so your whey protein is, well, actually I should start with your concentrate because that's more of like your base level. So your concentrate is kind of the whole, it's more of like a meal replacement. So it's gonna have carbohydrates, it's gonna have fat to it, kind of like a piece of grilled chicken would. Only thing is that it's in a powder. And obviously it's processed, so it's gonna have some additives to it that like sucralose that aren't ideal, so it's not as good as whole food. But if you are having trouble eating and you need to replace a meal because you need carbs, you need protein, and you need fat in each meal because you're being coached by me because that's what I've taught you how to do because that's how we do it. We'll explain why in a different episode. But concentrate would be really good. The problem with the concentrate is then it does take up your other carbs and your fats. So if you do like to eat fat, so like most people, most of my clients that aren't hungry, they still have enough hunger left in them to eat carbs and fat. It's usually not a problem to eat one or the other. It's usually the protein that they don't want to eat, right? It's usually the grilled chicken or the steak. Like people can eat a crap ton of rice or some veggies or fruit and stuff like that we can kind of nosh on. But when it comes to protein, it's so satisfying that we just can't eat a lot of it and then we end up not wanting to. So concentrate is good for like a meal replacement. Now, if you look on the back, this is a whey protein concentrate, which means it's a whey protein, but you still have your carbs and your fat. This, like I said, no carbs, no fat. So this is in this, if that makes sense. This takes out carbs and fat, so you have, well, so you have more options with food, okay? But then there's also a benefit of it when it's centered around a workout. So when you're going to work out, fats actually reduce, or not, well, they slow down. I wouldn't say reduce. It slows down the absorption of carbs. And you, after a workout, you want to replenish that muscle glycogen as soon as possible so your body starts repairing as soon as possible, so you start building as soon as possible. So you don't really want fats before and after a workout. You really want it to be as pure as possible with just carbs and a protein. If you're really focused on like muscle growth and not so much fat loss. I mean, it's good for fat loss too overall because you're building muscle, which burns fat, but you know. So this is where a whey protein isolate comes into play. So whey protein isolate, okay? Whey protein isolate is basically just broken down finer. Oh, that's the other thing. Where does it say on here? It's hydrolyzed. Should tell you. I used to tell you. This used to say it was hydrolyzed whey, but it doesn't anymore. why. I wonder if they changed. Oh, here we go. No, it didn't. Anyways, it's how they basically break it down, just makes it cleaner. Maybe it's because they changed it to this cross flow microfiltered, because that's different. Interesting. I'm gonna look into that. Anyway, okay, and then how it's processed. So higher temperatures, just like when you put something in the microwave, you nuke out the nutrients. So proteins across the board, when you go look for a whey isolate, you want something, even a concentrate, you want a low temperature processed one. Now, you're not gonna get a concentrate isolate because it's not isolated, it's concentrated. It has all three, right? All three macros, protein, carbs, and fat. But with a whey isolate, you it takes that out, right? So then you can add carbs, you can add fats if you want to. I like this a lot, but there's actually some studies that show that it spikes insulin pretty intensely for people. So for my clients and we were just going over this with my naturopath, with my clients that have some insulin resistance, I may actually swap them out from a whey protein, well, not to collagen, but to a collagen protein. So this is just collagen, but a collagen protein, actually a collagen peptide. And there's collagen proteins with peptides, those specific peptides in them. But we are going to do an episode just for pineapple about a specific video from Lane Norton that talks about why whey is better. So your whey isolate, this one, is better than a collagen protein, and why I disagree. I actually don't disagree with that, but I disagree in how he presented it, because a collagen protein isn't a collagen peptide. And so when you just have a collagen protein, that itself doesn't necessarily build muscle like it should. But it does provide the mTOR stimulation that things like a whey protein does, plus it doesn't spike insulin. So there's some really cool studies that we're going to go through with that, and especially when I have the laptop going. But so that's why I would use a protein powder. When I would use a protein powder is if I have a client that's not hungry, or if I forgot to meal prep my food, which was yesterday. So I used protein for 2 of my meals. But if I'm a beginner, and I haven't been eating like most people, your hunger is gonna be lagging. So getting a protein powder is not a requirement, but I would recommend it because it's a great way to not have to meal prep or figure out like what's better for you right now. Is it bison? Is it salmon? Is it chicken? Is it whatever? You can just use that for at least 1 or 2 meals, because 6 meals is a lot, 5 meals is a lot, 4 meals is a lot, and like for Larry, 2 meals is a lot. So even just changing your lifestyle to meal prepping is hard. So I definitely recommend getting a protein powder to start, to help you just get in the amount of protein that you need. And remember, 1.1 to 1.2. 1, like I said, is like super minimal. Like that's the lowest I will go. So about 1 to about 2 grams per lean pound of muscle mass, depending on your goals. So if you're looking to build, go higher. If you are older, go higher. Yeah. If you need to fill hunger gaps too, and you don't want to use veggies, and you're not in a cutting season, you could add a little bit of protein. But if you're going whole food, what should you pick? Should you pick a fish, a red meat, like Red said? Red. Like Red said, what about the studies saying that red meat isn't good? Let's see what you guys are saying. Even if you're fat and have food storage. No, Astro, I own a gym, and so these are actually a lot of the proteins that we recommend. And so people might think, well, why wouldn't you just recommend one? It's because there's a different use for all of them, right? Like we have vegans here that I coach. We have athletes that are looking to build. I've got a lot of male clients that need to put on a lot of muscle, so we'll use a lot of the Formula One. I've got clients that just need a meal replacement, and so they're not doing like that post-workout shake. So they'll do the level 1. And then, like I said, working with my naturopath, the collagen peptides. Yeah. That's okay. That's okay, Wilson. I would say it's okay. So collagen does, but there's different types of collagen peptides. Okay, so different collagen peptides do different things. Some are good for connective tissue. Some are good for skin tightening. Some are good for cellular health. Some are good for growing muscle. So there's a lot of different benefits to different collagen peptides. But remember that study that Lane was talking about in his video, which I had on my laptop, is he's comparing whey protein to just collagen protein. And it's very different. And so we should actually do a whole live on collagen peptides and collagen protein and kind of the differences with that a little bit. But what I wanted to really dive into today was obviously the differences in protein. So if you'd had 4 ounces, or obviously if you're a beginner, how to know what the differences are, when to use maybe a protein powder. I should go back and talk about how to pick that protein though. So one biggest thing is just get it in, right? So hit that goal, however many grams you figure that is. Give yourself a range to start. See where maybe you naturally land, which means you're gonna need to log your food. A good website to start logging your food is MyFitnessPal. My clients, they log all of their food in my app, so I see it directly. It does sync with MyFitnessPal too, but I don't like MyFitnessPal. It's just a bunch of caca. But anyway, so they log their food in the app, so I can see how much they're eating. They log it in grams, and it shows their totals at the end of the day to make sure that they can hit their goals. So if you're a beginner, I recommend first things first, just try to eat as much protein as you can almost, right? Because most chances are you're not going to eat enough. And log it and see where you land. And then if you land within that range of, like I said, depending on your goals and your age, 1 to 2 grams per lean pound of muscle mass. So like, if you're really overweight, take your weight and maybe do 50-60% of that. You know, if you don't want to go get a body fat test done, give yourself the least room or least benefit of the doubt, right? Like make yourself think you're fatter, I guess. Like, because you can always build on the protein. It's much harder to start really high. So, like I said, for Larry, if he's 200 pounds of lean mass, and we did the very minimum of protein, it would be 200 grams in a day. So divide that by 6 meals would be 33 grams per meal, right? So how in the world would you go about doing that? So you can look at the back of nutrition labels, but a lot of them are going to tell you the value. So the total protein, in fact, on the nutrition label, it's going to say protein, however many grams, right? Well, you're not going to weigh out 23 grams of this, okay? Because a serving size, if you wanted to know a serving size, 23 grams of protein is 1 scoop. Now, on all nutrition labels, it's going to have grams next to that value. This is how much you would weigh out. So you would get a food scale and you would put your protein in there and weigh out 32 grams if you didn't have a scooper. That's how you could do it, right? Especially because the scoopers are all the way down at the bottom. Like, what is that? I mean, I know they settle in shipment, but come on. Is there a better way? Because I know for formula for babies, they keep it at the top. They found a way to keep it at the top, so I don't have to dig in there. Anyway, it's a big pet peeve. Okay, so if you didn't have the scooper, you would weigh out, you would get your food scale, put it on grams, and you would weigh out 32 grams to get the serving size. And this is actually going to be more accurate than a scooper would be anyway. And 32 grams of this is going to give you 23 grams of protein. Okay? So they're not the same. See how they are not the same? Okay. So now, it's not a good example. Now, that's the level 1. Now I'm going to take the Vegan Power Pro. Serving size, 1 scoop. Do you think they're the same size scoop? Wait, 26.5 grams. Now, grams is a pretty darn accurate way of measuring your food, and weighing it out is the most accurate, which is why we do it for my clients. But I don't know a food scale that's going to give you a 0.5 grams. Yeah, right. But it only has 19 grams of protein in it. Okay? Poor vegans. So, for my little vegan buddies, you would, if you were needing 33 grams of protein and all you had was this in your cabinet to start, you would need, this is 23. Well, if you put it in the MyFitnessPal or in your app, it'll tell you how much you need. But you would need like what, 1.5 scoops, so like 40, it's probably like 46 grams you would weigh out to get what you need. And so why you can't just look at a serving size for what you need, right, for protein. Is it cool if we double? Yes. Your body might have a harder time absorbing all the protein right away. And then make sure it's one that doesn't make you feel bloated or gross. But yeah, you could. Yeah. This one, 19, double that would be 38. So this, even though it's vegan, this would be, you could just do 2 scoops of this for Larry, right, to get the 33 grams of protein. If you wanted 33 grams of protein and 4 ounces of beef is 23 grams, right? So we already did the math on 23 grams, but now it's in ounces. This is why logging your food is easy. You can just put in how much you need for protein or whatever, and it tells you how much to weigh out of that ingredient, which is awesome. But that's why you would want to make it measured to you. I think my protein powder is 30 grams. That's good. Ooh, sassy. Okay. We'll talk about sassy later. If you have these, you're going to the grocery store or the gas station. She's talking back to me. Okay. So here you have a protein stick. We have how many grams of protein? 6 grams of carbs, 18 grams. Okay, but it has 5 grams of sugar in it, just so you know. So Larry would need 2 of these, right, to hit 36. No, yes, 36. But that also adds quite a bit of sugar, okay? This linear bar, which is So good, by the way. These are my favorite thing in the whole world. Total fat is 10 grams. Carbs is 29. Protein is 20. Now, not very hungry. A little more hungry, right? I have a lot of mods because they're all my friends. Anyway, this level 1 bar is 20 grams of protein, but it has quite a bit other additives to it. So again, beginner, focus on just getting it in first, then fine tune the types, okay? Just get in, aim for that gram of protein, and then fine tune. And we'll talk about how to fine tune it in a second. This is a whole food bar by First Form, and this one has 17 grams of fat, 23 grams of carbs, and 15 grams of protein. So you would need like 2.5 of these, Larry. Those we'll talk about in a minute. So which one of these, if you were more hungry than a shake, okay, but you're not hungry for a meal, Mo. Ostrich is a good protein. Very lean, very, very lean. So if you're a beginner and you have these 3 options, focus. Now let's say you're okay buying more than one. Obviously, if you're Larry, which one do you think I would pick for you? A, 20 grams. B, 20 grams. C, 15. So 2 of these, or 2.5. You know, we'll double whatever these are. So you don't worry if it's less. You can always get more, but you'd have to do more. You'd have to eat more, right? Or D, 18 grams. So 2 of these, because you have to hit your goal, remember? So you're a beginner. What do? 2 of these, 2.5 of these. Oh yeah, 1.5 of these, or 1.5 of these. I didn't buy a bot. No, but it is my Nightbot. So the Nightbot from Streamlabs, I renamed it. So I had to make an email for it to rename it. So it's not Nightbot. So it's Sassy Sauce. So Sassy Sauce is really Nightbot. Yeah. So it's still Nightbot, just Sassy Sauce. You know? Okay. Larry says A. No, it's not a person. Larry says A. Does anyone else have a guess? You would like D though? You could technically do that. That'd be 38 grams, which would be more than the 1 gram per, you know, the baseline. Okay, so you could do this, but what I would pick for you is actually this. Or 1.5 of these, which would be really hard to not eat the other half. That's the only reason why I would say pick something else that you can eat the whole thing of. You don't want this half open. It'll talk to you. It's so good. And here's why. These are your cleaner options, okay? They taste better. You don't know that, but they taste better. But these are your cleaner options. So that's where once you start getting into, okay, now I've hit my macros, which is like your protein goal, the grams that you're trying to hit. So for you, 33. I would then look at all those other macros. So like we do with our whole foods, with the beef, with the chicken, with the salmon, is it high in anything else? Now, protein like that is a meat, is not gonna be high in carbs, okay? even the protein powder with the carbs isn't that high in carbs. But when you start getting into other protein sources like um, Greek yogurt, okay, you're gonna start getting other additives in there, especially sweeteners, that is gonna increase that carb intake. So, or things like, beans or tofu. A lot of vegans will use beans, edamame, um, soy. So those things are going to add in a lot of carbohydrates, which really makes it difficult then for especially vegans to lose weight and get their protein intake high without using a bunch of processed foods, which is why I actually picked these. So the linear bar is no seed oils, no sucralose, you got no bloat. I could eat this on prep, literally, when I'm prepping for a show. Now, should I? No, because I'm starving. Not really starving, but I'm hungry, so I want whole food. I want a big meal. And you'll get to that point that you build that metabolic capacity where you're doing 6 meals, maybe for in the beginning, 4 of those meals are bars, which is not ideal, but it's better than not eating, okay? So let's say you're doing 4 bars, 4 meals of bars and drinks and whatever. And then over 2 weeks or so, I would try to reduce one of those meals as a whole food option. And again, your hunger is going to start picking up, especially if you're working out, which I would recommend. Obviously, if you're trying to build muscle or burn fat, but your hunger will start to kick in to where these won't be satisfying enough. It'll be literally just for emergencies only, or for taste and flavor, like with this one. But you'll be relying less on this stuff than whole food. Now, and that's where like the beef, the chicken, the salmon, having a variety of that, once you've solidified the intake, then start getting into beneficial micronutrients, right? So start at the macronutrients, your major ones, protein, carbs, and fat, and then work on those micronutrients. So the micronutrients, like I said before, beef is really good source for CLA, which is great for inflammation and muscle building, but also oxidizing fat for fuel. Chicken is a leaner meat so that you're able to keep calories low. Same with tilapia, cod. Salmon is higher in fat, has really good omegas to it. Same thing with tuna. So the more variety of foods, so like to Red's effect, not so much talking about the studies themselves, but the more variety you can have in your diet and actually stick to it. So I'm not saying to be ridiculous. Obviously, having a different meat source or a different protein source for every meal can be a bit crazy, especially if you're doing 6 meals a day. It's one thing if you're doing 3 meals to have 3 different sources, but to have 6 different sources every single day, prep them out, cook them, whatever, it's a lot. So, as much as you can, and then fill in the gaps depending on your food preferences. So, like for some of my clients, they eat tons of fish. Some of my clients eat tons of red meat and no fish. Some of my clients eat just chicken and turkey. Some of my clients are vegan and don't eat any meat or eggs or anything, and that's really hard. And so depending on what foods you naturally enjoy, then fill in the gaps with supplements like omegas and CLA and greens, or all those different micronutrients that you might be lacking depending on your food choices. So first things first, make sure you're hitting the protein goal, then try to fine tune it as you're building that metabolic capacity to things that are more healthy. Start with 1 meal at a time, so that way your body's learning how to utilize all the food. Now, what do you do if you miss a meal? Do you double up or do you skip it? Red, my My youngin' used to eat a lot of protein bars. He thought it was funny to run by and let us smell like fart loose. So that's that processed stuff. So I always ask people when they have a protein that they use, how do you feel after you eat it or drink it? Because a lot of times it's so processed with so much crap in it that you get those protein farts. Now, egg whites you get is an opposite effect. So there was one prep that my husband did where he did all egg whites for every single meal, and he does a lot of protein, like over 200 grams of protein every day. So that was a lot of egg. I mean, we were going through cartons of egg whites every day. And he could it because it's already liquid, so that's where how it's broken down. So like you have beef, which takes longer to break down than chicken. You've got, salmon and tilapia. Tilapia is easier to break down than salmon. But your concentrate is going to be harder to break down than your isolate, right? So how it breaks down in the body when you're drinking egg whites, it's going to process a lot faster than when you're eating egg whites, like when they've been cooked, and then from egg whites to whole eggs, and then from whole eggs to other food like that you're chewing and that have density to it, like meat. So anyway, he was drinking these egg whites and it went right through him constantly. So yeah, he sincerely stopped eating those. That's funny. I'm going to get a box of ostrich stick. Well, I mean, what's in them though? Check to make sure what's in them. So if you can, surround yourself with really clean sources. You might find a different brand that's cleaner. So I would check before you spend a ton of money. Set yourself up for success, right, with what you have around you. But definitely try getting the food in. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is these two things. So, branched chain amino acids and essential amino acids, and what they are and why. Okay? Branched chain amino acids are what your body breaks protein down, basically, in layman's terms. Like when you eat beef, your body breaks down the amino acids in it to build muscle. There's certain ones, and this is where kind of what I was going to touch on in the next video for pineapple with what Lane said. There's certain food sources with different levels of each amino acid, which determines its structure, basically. And some protein sources, like collagen, are said to not be complete proteins because it doesn't have leucine in it, which is one of the main ones that activates mTOR, which is muscle growth. So branched chain amino acids, when you see these at the store, these are what you need to maintain and help grow muscle, lean muscle, okay? Can you grow off of, is this protein? This is not protein. You don't have everything you need to make a protein gram, okay? But some of the key factors in protein that build muscle are called branched chain amino acids, and that's what these are. And I'll tell you why we use them in a minute and why they're important. Essential amino acids are all the other ones. Think in the protein. Think of this as like the starting lineup on a football team. They do most of the work, right? This is the bench. You need the bench. The bench is important to make the team, but they're not the team. They're not what really makes the points. Not that they don't make the points, because you probably wouldn't make, well, you wouldn't make the points, you wouldn't score the points. Without them, you need them, but these are your star players, okay? So essential amino acids are things like when you're trying to just not burn muscle, basically. So when you look on the back of here, this does have some leucine in it, but it's lysine, threonine, tryptophan, blah, 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 blah. But you'll see BCAA complex at the top. Those are your branch chain, leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And then you'll see all the other ones on this one. Glutamine, one of my favorites. Isoleucine, valine, carnosine, beta-alanine, betaine, and it's got stevia. So this has your branch chain amino acids. This is just your essential amino acids. Now, when would you take these? I would take this post-workout, post-workout recovery, right? And this is why. Because you've torn down muscle, you need to repair. And that mTOR, right, that this activates, the leucine especially, is what's going to help with that. So post-workout, I take this. Also helps with lactic acid buildup. This, you'll see, muscle protein synthesis catalyst, because it does have the BCAAs, but your essential amino acids here improve recovery, smooth energy and focus, and well, EAAs, they do help. Like I said, they're the bench, but they're not going to be what makes you have the protein growth. So this is more for like if you're sore, if you need to buffer lactic acid buildup, if you're going to do a really intense workout, this could be beneficial to protect muscle. But for the most part, EAAs, I would say go with a branch chain over essential, because really you're going to try to repair and maintain muscle as much as possible, so you're going to want the branch chain. But it's not a protein replacement, okay? And collagen, we're going to do another live on that, because I do need to leave soon. I've got my kids coming, but collagen, so again, that video that we went over, or that I was going to go over, that I was talking about earlier, where Lane talks about how whey protein activates mTOR more so than collagen, is with a collagen protein, not a collagen peptide. So very different. Collagen peptides actually activate the mTOR, like the mTOR for muscle synthesis, much better, studies are showing, than whey. But I want to actually show you the studies. I don't want to just tell you the studies. But you can also add, because one of his arguments, Lane's, is that collagen lacks leucine. And like I was saying, in the branch chain amino acids, leucine is one of like the star players for mTOR. So activation. So that's part of his argument with collagen protein, is that collagen itself lacks leucine. But collagen itself, collagen peptides, actually activate mTOR in other ways, and so therefore much more efficiently. And then it's also so good for cell health, and what was the whey, like I said, spikes insulin. Collagen does not. So if you are insulin resistant, or like Wilson, not that you're insulin resistant, I'm not saying that, but you would benefit a lot from this. Not this one, but collagen peptides. And then I would also use a whey at other times, but I wouldn't solely use whey, just so that we monitor that insulin. So like especially in the afternoon. Again, you're not insulin resistant, but just saying with what we were focusing on. So does anybody have any questions? I don't. Yep. Thanks. It was a good analogy, huh? I just came up with that. I don't put those in my shake. I drink them separately after the gym. Oh, got it. When I'm sore, it's no joke. It does. It makes a huge difference. Huge difference. Okay, so do you guys want to see what these foods look like? You can order first form, that's this one, on their website. They have like a box of these, and there's like 15 or 18. Linear bars you can order online. They have a new flavor. It's really good. I don't want to open up new protein because you can't really taste it anyway. But yes, Red, it's so beneficial to you because, let me ask you this. You don't have to be a bodybuilder, but just like with your house, you're not an interior designer, but do you look to people that are interior designers for ideas? Because even though you might not hire an interior designer to do your whole house, you can use what they know when you're buying stuff for your home. That might be a weird analogy, but let me hear me out. Okay. So, because I get this all the time, because a lot of people are like, I don't want to be a bodybuilder. So they think that if they say that, they don't have to work out as hard to change their shape. But I think everyone cares about what their shape is, what they look like, what they feel like in clothes. I think you can it may not be an ultimate focus of some people. Like they may be like, oh, like as long as I look decent, I'm fine. But we still all care to some degree, right? And if you say you don't, like, kudos to you, but I feel like we all care about how we feel in clothes, about how we look in clothes. And so that, how you look and feel in clothes is determined by your shape, right? So to maintain, because you're not going to maintain your shape forever. As we get older, we're going to turn into a weirder shape, right? So to maintain, even if you like your shape right now, if we want to maintain that, you need to do things that a bodybuilder would do to develop those similar results. So like, for example, if I want, and this is probably a better example, if I wanted to put a shelf up on the wall, I wouldn't use a different technique than a contractor, like a general contractor would. I would go look up how they do it and try to mimic that, right? So to how I want it. So for example, if you really like your legs and glutes and shoulders, you would utilize some of the same tools that bodybuilders would use to develop that, because bodybuilders, that's our whole thing, is shape. So it's not about how much muscle you can put on. I think that's the misconception, because if you look at the females that compete in bodybuilding, yeah, there's some that look like men, right? But like for my division, it's all about shape. So the person that's going to win in my division is going to look like an upside down Y, like this. That's not a good example. They're going to look like this in my division. Okay? Bottom heavy. This is actually how I want to look in real life. Not like this, but bottom heavy. I don't want to be big upper body. I don't want to look like a man up here. I don't need to have like biceps. But I do want to have a nice plump butt, and I want nice shapely legs and nice calves in heels, right? And I want a tiny waist and big boobs. had a small head. So to build that, okay, I need to do leg exercises to put that shape in, right? But just doing the exercises won't work. And you can see that in a gym. When you go into a gym, you see people work out like crazy and they never change and you wonder why. And we talked about this in the reps and the sets live like over a month ago, where you can do all the exercises in the world or you can use all the steroids in the world, but if you don't have all the components put together, you're not going to build muscle in the places that you want to. And so that comes along with nutrition, your protein, because this is what builds muscle, is the protein. And then well, we should do a whole video on carbs, but carbs, you need carbs to spike insulin, to shuttle protein into the muscle. And then at the same time, you need carbs so that you have energy to push in the gym, so that you lift heavy enough to stimulate muscle growth. Because if you just go in there and you just kind of lift the same weight all the time, you're never going to change your shape. You're going to stay the same shape. The body won't have a need to. You have to create a stimulus that's going to make it change. And so to do that, it's, yes, with the workouts, where you're tearing down that muscle with heavier and heavier weight, making sure that you're challenging yourself more in that specific area, not necessarily in all the body. But that's also why we don't do full body workouts, right? Because you don't want your entire body to grow necessarily, right? I don't. Now, if you're in bikini for competing, red, if that's you, you want more of this shape. Bigger shoulders, big glutes, small legs, small waistline. So they're like this, okay? But that's a different shape than for fit. And I'm just saying these not because you're wanting to bodybuild, but to show you like the different shapes that bodybuilders achieve and do certain things to get to. And it all, so like the protein, they all have to focus on protein the same way, okay? So it's all having adequate protein intake throughout your diet to maintain and to build more muscle if you're looking to change your shape at all. So just to maintain, that's where you would be on the lower end of the 1 to 2 grams per lean pound of body mass. But then also, if you're older, the older you get, you're going to need to go higher. Because like I said, it's harder for us as we age to absorb protein. So with what you might have taken in as 20 grams of protein, and I'm not saying weighted value, but like 20 grams of protein, if you ingested 20 grams of protein, you in your 20s might have absorbed 19, 20 grams, but then now in our 50s or our 40s, we're absorbing 15 grams, 12 grams, 10 grams, depends. Okay, so I have to then eat more protein in a day to get the adequate intake in my body to maintain my muscle. And even if you're not a bodybuilder, as you age, that muscle is what supports your bones. And what supports your bones helps you staying upright, walking, not in a wheelchair, able to squat on a toilet, able to walk up the stairs, able to go down the stairs, able to drive, able to live on your own and not in old folks' home. So that's why it would be important, even if you're not a bodybuilder, okay, how they maintain their muscle without getting bulky and huge, it would be the same way that you can utilize it, because the bulky and huge comes from consistency in the gym with focused training, progressive overload, increasing that, like I said, that weight, those reps, all that stuff, the tempo, over time. So you're not going to eat like 200 grams and then turn into Rich Piana or something. If you look him up, he's huge. But It won't happen. And then 2, if you've ever felt like you've gotten bulky when working out, muscle doesn't grow that fast. So most of the time it's inflammation, it's fat that still needs to be burnt off, but now you're stimulating muscle to not necessarily grow, but expand. So when you work out, you start a new workout program and it involves weights, those muscles are expanding now, and that pushes the fat, right, out that's above it, along with water weight, because you probably increased food, so now you're going to hold a little more water until the body feels comfortable letting it go if you're getting adequate intake. And so you're going to feel fluffy and bulky sometimes at first, and then as you start to shed the fat, that muscle is really what you come down to. I actually, in my last show, I hated how I looked. I felt like I looked too small in my legs, because I had to do so much cardio and deplete so much just to lose all that fat from being pregnant, that I lost a lot of muscle. And so that was really sucky, because I felt like I was top heavy. I felt like I was this, I felt like I was the opposite. Oh crap, I need another stick. But I felt like I was 2 sticks and a this. So I just felt like my shoulders overtook my legs, and that's the opposite. I needed to be bottom heavy, not top heavy. So we've done a lot of work in this off season where we focused on just tons of glute and leg training and increasing my food. And now we're cutting my food. Oh my gosh, I was hungry today, which was different because I can't snack like I want to right now with this, although it's almost a mealtime, and technically this is my macros. So I could technically do this, although it's a little higher in carbs than I need, but I'm short on carbs in my other meals, so I technically could have this, but I might not. Anyway, where did my phone go? Oh, duh. Any questions? Oh, is she? Stop, Sassy. She's on it. I need to time her out. Yeah, you guys tell her. She's too sassy. Yeah, definitely more protein. Almost everybody can use more protein. Almost, unless you're but here's the thing. If you're new, if you're a beginner, log your food. See where you land. Who knows? You might be just fine with your protein intake. You might take in just enough. But I would check. I would log your food, see where you laugh. Ah! Mo time sassy out. I love it. I'm going to hear it from her later, guys. That's it. I'm going to hear it from Sassy later. She's going to yell at me. Oh, it's like a brown sugar moment. I love that. Okay, so any other questions? Larry, what's the first? So let's actually, this is what I want to do. Let's hold each other accountable. And keeping it simple, what's one thing? See, I have to pee, so I need to leave. I really have to pee. But I really want to come up with like an accountability thing before I sign off. So what's one thing that you guys can try to do before our next live that we can all kind of hold each other accountable for? So like for me, it's going to be sticking to my new foods, not snacking on things I shouldn't, and hitting my protein every day. So far so good. I've done all 3 meals. I go to my 4th, which should be right now, which is why I'm wanting to eat this. But what is one thing that you can try to do this week that would help you hit your macros? So are you going to do protein shakes? Are you going to get some bars? Larry's going to get some ostrich sticks. How do you think you're just going to... Are you guys just going to try to eat more? Like what I wonder if I need to tighten this. It's mad at me. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what's one thing that you can commit to this week to try to get more protein in? Honestly, yeah. Sorry, I know. Okay, so how are you gonna do it? Is anyone gonna go out and get some protein powder or sticks? If you focus on that glutamine will help a lot with sleep, by the way. So, and the tryptophan. The tryptophan will help you make serotonin. Anything? All right, guys. Well, then that's it, I think. We did over an hour of talking about protein. So, yeah, concentrate on sleep, but honestly, if your food intake is inadequate, Larry, it's going to be hard to sleep. You're going to get crappy sleep. So, how's your water? Check your water. That's another thing you can do. Don't worry about sleep. The sleep will come. I mean, obviously, go to bed, but protein and water. That's what I would focus on first. Protein and water. Because the carbs, the protein is going to make you feel full. You're not going to want the carbs. You might for like cravings. But focus on protein and carbs. And try to hit 200 grams for you, Larry, in a day to start. But remember, that's minimum. I like savory. Ooh. Magnesium. Make sure you get the right magnesium and don't do too much magnesium. But see, I wish I had the magnesium here. If you look at like Metamucil and stuff, and like, what's that one? Here, talk amongst yourselves. I'm gonna go pee for a minute. I'll be right back. I have to pee. I have to pee. I have to. Okay. Do you guys ever pee in a hurry and it doesn't stop? Shh, she's back. I love ahi. Dude, I ran through the gym, by the way. I love ahi. And it's actually not that expensive at Winco. I don't know if you have a Winco. But in the frozen section, you can get little 4-ounce frozen ahi things for not that bad. And they taste pretty good. So we did an ahi. We did an ahi. I showed you guys in the ahi meals with mustard. Remember? Dude, I did hold it too long. But I swear, I can usually pee pretty fast. And this just would not stop. I'm like, okay. Anyway. You know, that's a good question, Mo. Because California is pretty expensive. What is the name of, like, let's see, East Coast Winco alternatives? Aldi might have it. Do you have an Aldi? Aldi frozen ahi fillets. So I can get them DoorDash to me from Aldi. And these look super similar. They're $4.59 for 12 ounces. So you're getting 3 meals for $4.59. Let's see. They look just like what I get. Can you see that? Here. That's Aldi. $4.59. Wait. $4.50. Is it backwards? It's backwards. Well, it says $4.59. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. $4.59. Publix. Okay, okay, Aldi. So check Aldi, but Publix might have it too. Let's see what Publix has. Frozen. Publix sells several types of frozen ahi tuna products, including Annecy Poke, Shoyu Ahi, and the Safe Catch Yellowfin Tuna. And I bet you, let's see, the Anna. Oh, that's frozen with additives. Hold on, don't do that one. Let's try the Safe Catch. What's in that? That looks like not what I mean. Publix website. Let's just do that. Frozen ahi. No to Publix. I would say go to ahi or Aldi. Go to Aldi. Yeah. Go to Aldi, and it looks like the same exact ones I get. Legit. Now at Winco, I can buy them not in a 3-pack. I can buy them individually. So I just like take 100, it seems like, but I take like 12 and keep them in the fridge, and then I pull them out the night before, and then I'll grill them the next day. The only caveat is always when you start to get deeper into it. So not in the beginning, don't worry about it in the beginning, but when you get deeper into tracking your food, one thing you will want to do is weigh it out, because it says 4 ounces or it says 3 ounces, and it's not. It's sometimes less, sometimes more, because they can't be perfect right with a machine usually, and they're not sitting there weighing each one out. So I would always recommend, especially if you're doing show prep, even though they're portioned out already and it says, 4 ounces or 3 ounces or what, I think it's actually 3-ounce ones, weigh it out anyway. And then remember, for a lot of the meats that you're going to measure out, you're actually going to measure them cooked. So for things that you normally eat raw, like the ahi tuna, I would sear it, right? So I'm not really cooking a lot of the juices out. That I'm going to measure first, and then I'll put it out on to cook it. But with everything else that you're cooking first, you're going to cook out a lot of the moisture. So you actually want to weigh that afterwards. And then for things like pasta or rice or, pasta, rice, sweet potatoes, however you're eating them, so obviously cooked, you're going to measure that cooked because the water, you could do like a little tiny scoop of rice and try to cook that, but that's like not feasible. You usually make it in a batch, right? So you're going to measure that out cooked. With oats, because everyone's preference on how runny they want it, on how thick they want it, I always have my clients measure that out dry. But most of the rest of the carbs, your meats, those are all going to be cooked unless it's something that you generally eat raw, obviously, right? So like anchovies, I wouldn't weigh the bag. So you're not going to weigh the bags, you're going to weigh the meat. I mean, the bag isn't going to be, the bag itself isn't going to weigh a ton, but it's got the juices in the bottom that you're not going to be ingesting. And so you want to make sure you're not weighing the juice out that you're not eating, right? So I weigh out, I pull it out of the bag. They're in these like little individual bags with a bunch of their juices at the bottom. Pull it out, weigh it for what I need, which for me right now is 4 ounces per meal. So I'd weigh that out and then I'd sear it as I like to, because again, I'm searing the tuna. If you go back to that video, I hardly have it on the grill. So I'm just cooking the outsides, just to kind of sear all that stuff in. So no, pineapple, that's a really good question. In MyFitnessPal or like in our app, they have those cooked values a lot. And now that is a guesstimate of like how much of the water was taken out, and then how long you cooked it for. But when you go to log your foods, if you ate cooked rice, log it as cooked, because if you log it as uncooked, it's going to give you what that nutrition label is. And so like a cup of dry rice versus a cup of cooked rice is very different, right? Because it's got water to it and this has to expand still, right? So it's not the same. And when you go to input a cup of rice in your food log, it's going to say like it's 100 million grams of carbs, because it's, a lot more. So for things that you're going to cook in bulk, there is a slight variation to it, but it's negligible, I would say. So I always measure out the right, because again, you're not going to, with rice, which you need per meal, you're not going to measure out the small amount that you're going to get in a meal and then cook that and then put it on your plate. So you're going to make a big batch of rice, right, in your rice cooker. And there's a recipe to rice too. It's, for brown rice, let me see if I can remember this right. Brown rice is 2-to-1, and then white rice is 1.5-to-1 of water to rice. And if you do too much, it's going to be soggy. If you do too little, it's going to be hard, right? So generally speaking, you have like a recipe for how much rice or water you're going to add to it. For oats, it can be very different, but that's why I do that one dry. But I also don't go off so I do go off of the nutrition label for some things, but when it's just general, like jasmine rice, brown rice, it's not processed food. There's really not a ton that someone can change to the food itself. I just go based off of what's in my food app. But you can enter it. Yep. Pineapple knows what is up. I don't do cups, only grams. Measurements aren't accurate. Yes. So for the video, I am speaking more in cups ounces because one of the most confusing things for people is grams versus grams. So weighted grams versus macronutrient grams. Because like I said, on this, you need to weigh out 28 grams of this. It needs, like, what you weigh, how much it weighs for 23 grams of protein, because it's not, even though it weighs 28 grams, it's not 28 grams of protein, even though it is a protein source. So it gets confusing for people. They're like, wait, huh? And it is confusing initially, but when you get it, you get it. Yeah. I weigh rice raw. That's one way you could do it. Definitely pineapple. So pineapple weighs it raw and figures out the amount there, and then portions it out afterwards, which is totally doable. That's a way more accurate way to do it, for sure. For sure. My brain is swimming. So this, ask away though, like what, because this is good, because I can have other people watch this back when they have questions. So maybe I can explain it better. And I do have to go soon because my kids are coming home soon. But take a piece of bread and a marshmallow. Let's say we're trying to hit our carbohydrate goals. And so we're trying to find a carb that can fit. Let's say they both have 10 grams of carbs to them. Let's just say, we're just saying. But they don't weigh the same, right? But they both have the same amount of carbs to them. But they don't weigh the same. So that's where, with the protein, it doesn't weigh the same for certain food sources. It has different weights, but it can still equal similar protein values. So the protein value is not necessarily indicative of the weight. If that makes sense. Always choose the marshmallow. See, pineapple, you would be really good. Wilson, you're so right. Once it clicks, it clicks. But in the beginning, it's kind of a mind flip, right? It's like, wait, huh? And so part of me always thinks I should have people start with ounces and measuring in ounces first and then switch them over to grams. But I think that would confuse people more. But honestly, pineapple, I think that's why you would be good at me coaching you, because you are so OCD, and that's like one of the hardest parts for people is the nutrition. And you track it way better, and you do it already. Like, getting people to log their food is super hard. It's so tedious, and they don't want to do it. So, ooh. See, I'm not a big sweet tooth protein powder person. First Form has like a lot of juicy fruity pebbles and cinnamon cookie batter crunch and a bunch of weird ones. My favorite, did I even grab my favorite? I don't think I did. I didn't. This is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I don't like it. I like the chocolate milkshake, just plain chocolate. Ounces confuses people because liquid ounces versus solid ounces. See? There you go. I think either way, it's kind of hard to, at first, just track. Just learning the different, like that chicken isn't beef, beef isn't chicken. You know, like, I mean, I know we know that it's not, they're not the same thing, but I think we just assume because they're protein sources that you can eat the same amount for each and it's the same and it's not. Mark, is pounding 32 ounces of egg white carton as cheers to this live episode detrimental? I don't recommend that because that's going to digest really fast and you're probably going to get some tummy cramps and maybe diarrhea. Diarrhea. Oh, by the way, hey, what y'all? This is the crop top. It's super flowy, super comfy. This is a medium, I think. I might go to large. I go to large. Super comfy. Although you will need to do a wash because I already have black stuff in my armpits. But super comfy. I think I'm gonna make one for Stu. That says sky mustard. No. I should make one for Stu that says something. I think it'd be really cool if Stu wore one on a live and it was like, he's wearing mustard! And for those of you that don't know Stu, he is like the king of the air down here. So, hey Mark. Did you see my answer? Too late? Oh no. That Mr. Olympia winner talked shit about working out too many days a week. That Mr. Olympia winner? What does he say? I'm lucky my girlfriend has been pushing me to sleep better and eat. Four hours a week max. You didn't break me. I promise. Otherwise, too little recovery. So, hours is different than frequency, but obviously it's going to affect frequency, right? Because you're not going to work out for just 10 minutes. But I honestly don't disagree completely. I think 4 hours is a bit short, but I would say you don't need that much longer because I get my workouts done in an hour. So that would mean 4 days. So for a standard person, like for any of my clients that I have guaranteed results for, my minimum that they have to meet is 3 times a week. They have to work out, right? Mark, you know that. So a minimum of 3 times each week in order to get the guaranteed result that I've said at the end. More is better because, and this is where frequency comes into play, so more days is better because body parts have time to recover. So you break up your body parts, you have time between the time you're gonna hit it again. But to be fair, your workouts shouldn't be longer than an hour and a half, 2 hours. And if they are, I would assess your workout load, what the end goal is, and why you're there for so long. If you're talking, if you're sitting on your phone, if you're dilly-dallying between sets, and you're taking 2 hours to work out, yeah, and it's not because of too little recovery, it's not lack of efficiency. in my opinion. Now, that's just when you take hours, because some people can be in the gym for 3 hours in a day, my husband included, and I get on him all the time. I feel like he takes forever between exercises, and he claims it's because he lifts so heavy, but then I harp on his form, because he would see a lot better results if he fine-tuned his form a little more and reduced his rest period in between. But there's certain muscle groups, like legs, that you can target more frequently throughout the week, which then, especially to catch them up to other body parts. And so if you're resting those body parts enough in between and you're targeting another body part, you're taking in enough food, I would say 4 hours is not adequate. No, I would disagree. And then he's also probably on a lot of gear, which would help him maintain a lot of that muscle. But I would like to see that video where he's saying you only need 4 hours a week maximum. And especially if you're trying to lose weight, that's bullshit. And especially if you're trying to build a physique, that's bullshit. But I would love to see it, because I'd love to comment on it too. Stu is going out after he gets moved. Maybe he could wear it that day. Ooh, yeah. I still need to find that address to send it to. And then I want to design something else, something like sky mustard or mustard stitch. No, I'll think of something. Yeah. 4 hours a week. 4 hours a week, it's, again, the part I agree with is like, you don't need, some people are here for hours, and that's just not efficient. That's not efficient. You don't need that much time. You don't need to be in the gym nonstop. Now, if you're doing cardio and a workout because you're trying to burn fat, that's going to increase your time in the gym if you don't have a cardio machine at home, but then that's different too. I bet you he's doing more than 4 hours of cardio a week. I bet you that much. So is he including that in his? Dorian Yates said that? No. Get out of town. Honey mustard. My mustard brings everyone to the gym. No, Pineapple. He was talking about 4 hours. So Dorian Yates, he was said you only need 4 hours maximum of working out. Like, no. But sleep, we would die. We would die. Did you know when you lack sleep chronically, you're worse than a drunk person? So, no, you need more than 4 hours of sleep too, and 4 hours of training. But if you're a newbie, if you're a new person, and you're just trying to like lose weight and maintain muscle, you're not looking to really build, 4 hours a week would be grand. Perfect. So, Pineapple, that sounds like my sleep schedule, not with some protein. I sent you the clip to your Instagram box. We'll watch it on the next live, because right now we're on my phone because the internet sucks. So I got to figure this out with the internet and how to make it better here. But next time I may just take us back into the other room. I mean, I know this whole thing is cool and all, and it's like lovely and grand, but I like this because you can hear me better. So I might take you back to the other room, and we might do that next time, but then we can play on my laptop, we can play the video, but we should definitely go over that. I have a friend who is 65. She has the best gunboats I've ever seen on a non-bodybuilder woman. See? And she eats protein, yes? I'm just guesstimating, because that's how it's maintained. Larry, I swear by the sleep pills Costco sells. Uh-oh. What's in it? What's in it? Whatever happened to Master Brain? Did you not like it? Because I know it knocked you out. Did it knock you out too much, pineapple? All right, guys, so my kids are going to be home soon. So I'm going to go be the mom that I would like to be. Tomorrow, we're going to do a cardio confessional. I did cardio without you guys today. I'm sorry. But I worked on all of my slides for today, and I worked on the thumbnail and put all my notes in a row. And now it's not even on here. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, post them on Discord. Because I want to see what they are. Pineapple, please. I like the Costco ones better. I forget the name, but they're formulated by a neurologist. They're like $20 for a 2-month supply. I'm curious. Larry, mustard, my shirt idea is not copyrighted. Feel free to use it. It's yours. Thanks. Mods, Mo, you never sent me your, oh no, you did send, Mo, your Tumblr is on the way, but I am so retarded. You need a sweatshirt. All the other mods have a sweatshirt. And now I have your address, I can send you the sweatshirt. So tell me what size, so I can send you a sweatshirt, and let me know if you want a regular sweatshirt or if you want a crop top. Okay? But, oh my gosh, I could have sent that with the Tumblr, and I was like, I gotta get her Tumblr. She won, I gotta send it out, and then I didn't even think to send you a sweatshirt. Because all my beautiful mods have beautiful sweatshirts. They deserve it. You guys don't have to be here. I know Sassy Sauce has got it under control, kinda, not really. But it's my way of saying thank you, and I appreciate you, and so, yeah. Now I have your address. I can send it, so just tell me the size, okay? Okay. Okay, so tomorrow, cardio confessional. I may go live here in the other room tomorrow too. My plan is to do one more studio live this week with informational type stuff. So if you can, in the comments, if you have any questions about something in particular, or maybe we talk about sleep, or we go over other vitamins you can take that I've gone over before, like CLA, omegas, acetyl L-carnitine is a good one. ALA is a good one. Ashwagandha. Maybe things for stress or energy. I know we talked about pre-workouts already, but some people don't want to take pre-workout for energy. What else? We could talk about carbs. We could talk about fat. We could talk about steroids. I know that one's still on deck. Beatles in the house. What's up? We can talk about digestion. We can talk about, we can go to poop school. We can take you guys to poop school. We can talk about that and how to look at your feces and tell what's going on with your stomach. That's always fun. We should go over hormones again. We didn't. We still have to do our hormone talk, especially about cortisol. Maybe we go over blood work and how to read blood work. That sounds boring. Or maybe like the bigger markers of blood work that you want to look at and what it means. Or we could make like a girls only night where it's only girls. And if the guys want to come, they can. But talk about like our cycle, how you're like 4 different people in your cycle. Okay, literally 4 different people in your cycle. You could make up 4 different humans hormonally. Guys, you actually might want to, especially if you're dating a new girl or if you're married and, oh, battery's dying. If you're married and you can't figure life out with your wife and you feel like it's hormonal based, I can give you some hacks on that and to find out where she is in her cycle so you know exactly how to help her or how to help yourself. So, things with like foods, different foods you should eat to help benefit not only cycle health, um, but hormone health and just things that go with your flow instead of against it. Get it? It goes with your flow. We can go over that book In the Flow that I talked to you guys about. But that is, I mean, if anyone has a female in their life, that would be beneficial to understand her better because literally 4 different people in your cycle every 28 days. Even if you're on birth control, even if you don't have a cycle, supposedly, you still have a cycle. Your body still has one. It just doesn't do it the way it's supposed to do it. Okay, so you still have a hormone cycle, a luteal phase, you know, all that stuff. You just don't perform how you're supposed to perform. So certain signals aren't signaling. Okay, but that still means you have a cycle. Okay, so we can go over ways to kind of hack that and use it to your benefit. Use it so you're compounding energy. You're not kind of trying to swim uphill here. You go with it. So we should have a girls' night for that. Hormones are no joke. Yeah. No, seriously, Larry. Like, because here's the thing, especially with perimenopausal women, like once you're like 30, 35, you start to get perimenopausal. And depending on if you've had kids too. So like if you've had kids, you can delay that because you don't have a cycle when you are pregnant. Okay, so you kind of prolong menstruation or your menopause at that point. But even someone that's perimenopausal, menopausal, different phases, right, are learning those, knowing that even if it's your mom, I know for my mom, the house, the vibe of the house was set by her, right? And so if her hormones are out of whack, what else do you think is going to be out of whack? It's like that house. So a lot of those symptoms of menopause are really in the perimenopausal state. So before menopause is set in, and menopause is pausing menses. So pausing your cycle. Okay. But perimenopausal means you're slowly stopping that cycle. And ways that you can kind of hijack that and benefit that. So I started early and ended early. Yep. Well, when you're born as a female, when you're created, okay, in the womb, you have all the eggs you're ever gonna have. Crazy, right? That's crazy. All the eggs already there. It's like insane. It's insane. So anyway, depending on when you start, each time you have a cycle, you're getting rid of an egg. It's one less cycle. So, anywho, you should have Mr. Mustard on as a guest and talk about recipes and testosterone building. You want to know something funny? I write Mr. Mustard's program. In fact, I coach all of our men. In fact, I coach all of our clients. But yeah, that's my forte. We actually have almost as many men now as we do females, and we used to only have females because it was really hard for men to trust me to about building muscle because they look at my husband and like, oh, he knows. But if you guys met him, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but if you guys met him when I met him, he struggled so hard to put on muscle mass. He was being coached by Lane Norton, and unfortunately Lane has a very fixated way of thinking, And in science, you always have outliers. And there's, especially with humans and hormones and stress and lifestyle and toxins and environment and everything, that will affect how your body processes food and builds muscle or doesn't. And so taking a look at each person individually is something I think he lacks, unfortunately. So when we were being coached by him, it was very, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but cookie cutter. He had the same methodology. It never varied, it never changed really from person to person. Amounts were different, but for example, before when we would go on stage, he would have us in between prejudging and finals. He would have like Josh eat this Subway sandwich with like everything on it, and then drink a ton of BCAAs. And if you know anything about being prepped on stage, the way that interacts and where the body is at, and this is what I mean, like environment, stress, body fat percentage, hormone levels, all that stuff has to be taken into consideration, because my husband's body is still the same from before to on stage. But to put that food, just put that food in him and BCAAs just makes you spill over. And spill over as in like the water and the carbs, you're holding water, so you just look fat on stage and bloated a lot. And so you have to be very careful with how the types of food, because one, like a Subway sandwich, you're eating bread and just processed stuff. You want to, and he wasn't eating Subway sandwiches leading up to the prep, so now you're introducing a whole new food which breaks down differently. And this is part of why, like with Lane, he's just very hard-headed. He's very smart, and knows a lot of information and is very knowledgeable, but we don't even understand the body in its entirety. And he's very, like I said, fixated on what he thinks works. And so, like for my husband, we went a completely different route and did a lot of alternative research and working with a bunch of different people after the fact, and we're able to actually get him. He was having a hard time getting past 200 pounds, and now he weighs close to 230, off stage. So just to give you some perspective. Yeah, Larry, so true. So true. And milk, if you're a bodybuilder and you're looking to put on muscle, milk ain't so bad. I mean, in fact, if I said breast milk, most bodybuilders that are like super serious about being big on stage would be like, yes, please, because of the growth hormone in it. And the sugar, they want the sugar spike because, like I said, it gets flushed into the muscles, and if you're building, and they have a ton of muscle, so it's an extra trash can for excess sugar anyway. But everybody is so different, and hormones, and like I said, stress level, and how we all relate to stress and sleep or lack thereof, is so different. So I really think everyone's diet has to just be assessed very personally, and then how it's going to be tackled, because the way that he would carb cycle and the supplementation, there's just things I've learned that work better. It's not so much that he's wrong, it's just he's very fixated. He hasn't changed. So I like the guy, but I wish he was more open-minded about things. Um, yeah, milk. No, thank you. All right, guys. So my kids will be home soon, but tomorrow I might do another in studio live. Again, if you can, comment on the live today and let me know some ideas that you want to talk about, or I'll just keep, trying to come up with things that I think you guys want to know more about. Um, so we'll do that. I also want to do one about maybe not so much food, nutrition, or workouts, but more like motivation, how to get past, plateaus in your motivation, and tips and tricks for that, because that's big too. Because it's easy to start something new, but then when the new car smell wears off, it's hard to keep it going. So. Especially if you're not seeing all the changes that you feel like you should be seeing right away, which happens a lot. So I wanted to kind of show different ways you can see on when you're tracking your progress. That's part of things we'll talk about with motivation. But when you're tracking it, how to identify areas when you might be plateauing versus when the body is just self-regulating. And when you should just sit tight. So how to kind of make those adjustments yourself as you're going. Because oftentimes we'll give up when we think it's not working, but it really is working, and then we just missed out on the whole boat. So I don't want you guys to give up too much. So motivation is going to be what I was going to do later this week, probably tomorrow or Thursday, maybe Friday if I don't do it Wednesday or Thursday. It all has to depend on the kids and when they can be handled. But yeah, how to build a workout program for people who can't afford a trainer. That's great. Reps and sets, the live I did about a month ago, would be a good one to start at in the meantime, because we talk about the reps and the sets, but we could go more into depth on how to pick the exercises themselves, let alone the reps and the sets, right? And for which body parts. How to figure out calories to start at. So we already have our protein base, right? So definitely doing one for carbs and then one for fat, and then tying that together would be good, because you could really break down carbs in a whole episode. You could really break down fats in a whole episode, which we kind of did when we talked about the diets, the macros in the live, where we talked about like mistakes and stuff. So you could review that one too. That's a good one to start at, but how to kind of put all that together, or break the carbs and the fats down individually a little bit more, would be really good. And then seems like I plateaued all summer. No, Mo. And then it takes time to put on weight. It takes time to lose it. So true. Although it takes time to put on muscle, and it takes time to lose fat. But I tell you, fat is something our body will do quickly. 2 weeks time. How to figure out calories. That was such a good one. Depending on goal. So good. Pineapple, you're doing awesome. Pineapple, I need your ideas. You're the only one willing to put ideas out there. Keep doing it, because this is awesome. This is perfect. Body fat for muscle. So Beetle, you would be looking to build and burn. So when we talked in that other live about macros and mistakes, you would be the build and burn bunch. The build and burn bunch. For you, I don't know your age. So let's say you're my age. I would say you would need about 1.5, 1.6 grams of protein per lean pound of body mass. Start with that. Carbs and fat. Yes, it determines goal, but then also determines if you have any autoimmune issues, insulin sensitivity issues, things like that we would need to monitor. Otherwise, we could go over, obviously what your goals are, where you're at, and what your time frame is. Because you could be like me after this last baby, Micah, and try to lose 80 pounds in 3 months, or you could try to do it over 6 months. And then if you did it that way, you could be much more lenient in the beginning as opposed to hardcore So definitely time frame. I was never born. Not true. Beetles are born. They have a mom. Body recomposition ability for beginners. In fact, beginners, you guys have, your body is so responsive in the beginning, so you have what, like, the beginner's benefit. There's the thing that they coin it, Pineapple probably knows. It's not beginner's luck, but it's like beginner gains, I think, where it's just so easy for beginners to actually change their physique because their body is like, what? And just like kind of over responsive. And then it starts to plateau out and it takes more and more to really challenge the physique. Sign me up for 3 months of weight loss. Let's do it, Larry. Beetle's human. I know he is. All right, guys. I have 8 minutes to pack up and get home, which is impossible. You haven't worked out in like a year. Do I have it again? That's a good one too. And yeah. So beginner gains are cool, but bounce back is even cooler because it happens fast too. So like when you've taken time off, but you've been there before, the body bounces back because it's like, oh, I know where I need to go. So it goes there. It's kind of like with having babies, you know, like they say that subsequent babies, oh, my phone is really gonna die now. They say that subsequent babies are easier on, like your body has an easier time delivering and carrying usually. And that's because the body has been there before and knows what to do. Same thing with stage. When you're going on stage to do a show, every show the body becomes more and more inclined to go that far because it's been there before. It knows you're not going to stay there forever and that you're going to come back out. Pineapple. I'm a bunch backer. I'm a bounce backer. I'm a bunch backer. You're a bounce backer. I need to lose 10 pounds of fat and gain 15 pounds of muscle. So like honestly, Pineapple, because more of your goal is to build than burn, I would say focus on the building and the building will burn the fat, right? Especially just balancing out blood sugars in order to build will help you burn. But just putting on 15 pounds of muscle, you'll burn that 10 pounds off so fast. So fast, because it's a constant fat burner. Beatles number 1. I need to put work in and cross other bridges later. Have you stepped into a gym lately, Beetle? And worked out? I know you step in it, but do you do anything? That'd be the first one. Gonna dust my weights off. Yay, Red, do it. Do it, do it, do it, do it. And again, progressive. So even if you just start with body weight, start with body weight squats, body weight lunges, body weight, dips. Obviously a body weight bicep curl is kind of like, but like grab a can of Coke, start there. Don't drink it afterwards though. Give it to the kids. You could do overhead press for triceps at home. You know what, we'll do an at-home one where I can show you what to do with like your stuff at home that we can, if you don't have weights or whatever, what you can use. Oh goodness. Yeah, anyway. I better be home or I'm a bad mom and CPS will be called, I'm sure. I got a bad knee, so I got to be careful. Okay, well, because you have a bad knee, means you should do legs. Because if you don't use it, you lose it, and you don't want that knee to get worse. So it doesn't mean agitate it with heavy weight, but I would not reduce your range of motion or challenging it with any sort of at least body weight workouts. Mustard, go home. I know. I could keep talking all day. Okay. Bye, you guys. Tomorrow, cardio confessional, possibly an in-studio. And we'll talk motivation. Sound good? I do stretches. Good. Stretches is good, but body weight stretches. So range of motion with resistance. So thanks, guys, for coming. Talk to you later. Like, subscribe, and share, please. Okay, bye.